What's up, Dragon Brood? Today we have something a little bit different. We are reviewing 20 different brands of boxer briefs. I know it sounds crazy. It's going to be epic, and this is going to be a long video because we have to really review 20 brands, so it's not going to be easy. First time I'm tackling something like this, but hopefully everybody learns something from it. But we're going to talk about like the process, why we're doing it, everything else, and then we're going to tackle all of them. So hopefully you're able to make a good decision whenever you go out to buy your next pair of briefs. Hey Dragon Brood, this is just a quick word from future editing me. I decided to go ahead and adjust a couple of the ratings after further review of some of the brands, going back and checking them out again, checking some of their website stuff. I have updated that and notated it in the video, so no concern there. But if you're wondering where some of those scores came from, there was just a lot of things to test, and this is a thing that happened over the course of almost 2 weeks, plus a lot of testing. So I just wanted to make sure y'all had the most accurate thing at the end. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there. Enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, so for starters, how did we get here? Well, one day, literally, I was going through my drawers, not my drawers, but my drawers that had my drawers. Yeah, I know what I'm saying. But anyway, I was going through and thinking, okay, it's about time for me to replace some of them. And I figured, well, let me just go to Twitter and I'll just ask some dudes and say, hey, look, dudes, this is a thing we don't normally talk about. So why not? Let's do it. Tell me what your favorite boxer briefs are and why. Well, I ended up getting a ton of responses. And I was like, okay, people are passionate about this. And really, I'd kind of just bought whatever was available whenever I went to like Kohl's or something or whatever. And by the way, I want to, before we get into this, I want to at least say this is not sponsored by anyone. This is literally me just giving honest opinions of all these things, just so you know. But after taking all those suggestions, I realized there's a lot of different brands. So I decided we're going to go ahead and take 20 brands and then I'm going to give them a look. And I literally bought and wore all of these. So I'm giving you my honest impressions. So here's what we did. We're going to break them down into 3 categories. The budget brands, so everything under $10, because these are the ones you're likely going to be able to get at most of your like Walmarts or whatever, wherever you're doing like your budget clothing shopping. And you know, because some people just don't have a lot of money and you still want to get something nice. And then we're going to have our premium brands. These are going to be things that are about from $11 to about $25 a pair. These are usually going to be ones that you can find on some online stores or whatever, but you know, a little bit nicer. And then we're going to have designer brands. These are the ones going to be over $25 a pair. Some of these get pretty pricey, and I'm sure some people want to know like, well, is it worth it for that extra money? Like, because sometimes you might want a really nice pair for that smooth, sexy night or something, but like, yeah, is it worth it? Also, let me talk about something else real quick. Some of these had a fly and some of them had no fly. And an interesting thing I learned about flies on boxers is actually only about 20% of dudes use them. So I was in that 80% that didn't. So part of this process was me also learning to use the fly on my boxers, which is weird because I'm like 40, but you're like, why would I learn now? But turns out the benefit is so you don't actually have to untuck all your stuff whenever you're going to the bathroom and you're all dressed up, which actually kind of makes sense. But I never really thought about it. So anyway, if they had a fly, I used it. I'll tell you if it's any good or not. Also, for the process, I actually tried to wear each of these for at least half a day. So I would wake up, put one pair on. I tried to make sure to do at least some amount of exercises. Also sat down to do work at the computer so you can kind of figure out if like sweat builds up, does stuff rumple up or whatever. So that was all included. And then midday, I would switch to do the same thing for another pair in the afternoon and evening. So I tried to give them equal time. So it's about as fair as I could do. It's not the most scientific thing, but it's what I got. Start with our first brand here, and it's 32 Degrees. Like, this is one I thought was like, first off, weird name, but hey, there was a couple people who said they liked these, so I figured I was going to check them out. So 32 Degrees cool boxer briefs is just what they called them, which they were pretty breathable, so that was actually pretty cool. Pretty nice, fairly thin. The stretch material, the mesh was actually pretty solid, felt good. Wasn't really remarkable, but it wasn't bad either. I would say though, one of the problems I had is they were a touch long. I tried to get everything in about the 6-inch inseam cut. And usually I did medium size in all the brands because that's what I wear, so I wanted that to be consistent. And these were fine, but like I said, just a little bit long. And the fly was very difficult to use. So if you are a fly user, this is probably not going to be the brand for you. You normally can find them for very low. On their website, they list them at like either 20 or 30 bucks a pair, depending on what pair you want. But they seem to always be marked down to like $4 or $5. So shipping at all only comes to about 10 bucks for one pair. So obviously it'll be cheaper if you get multiple pairs and then just stack up the shipping. For looks, I'll give these like a solid 7. They were pretty good. For what do we have left? For materials, this was a tough one because you have to kind of be into the mesh, but I'm going to assume you are if you're buying these. So if you're into the mesh material, we're going to give those an 8. For function and movement, they were okay. They didn't really like over support or under support. They were somewhere in the middle. So I'll give those a solid 7 there. Breathability, also good, so a 7. These were good. They're not going to over impress you on any spot, but they actually just check all the proper boxes. All right, next up we have Fruit of the Loom. Funny thing about Fruit of the Loom is I can't remember even owning a pair of Fruit of the Loom underwear since I was like, I don't know, like 10, some type of like, I don't know, Scooby-Doo underwear or something. But these were actually pretty nice. They felt good. The problem with them though, as a medium size, they felt about a half size smaller, which is weird, not a full, they were just a slight bit tighter than a lot of the other brands we bought. So that was a big mark against these. Though I will say, as far as the feel, they were pretty nice. Honestly, I was super surprised when I saw Fruit of the Loom. I was kind of like, these are probably going to be the most budget of the budget, but they actually felt pretty good. So, I mean, kind of surprised me. So if you're into this brand and you trust it, then go for it. Probably fine. As long as the sizing works for you, these probably aren't terrible. I was going to say for our looks, we're going to go ahead and go with a solid 7 again. They weren't good, not bad. Didn't really impress one way or the other. The feel and materials, I'm giving these a solid 9. Like, and that's saying something. Like, can't check a 10, but a 9 really works for me here. Function and movement, this is one where I'm going to have to dock them a bit. Like I said, it was just, they were slightly tighter than I thought they were going to be. And everybody else seemed mostly consistent at a medium size. So for this, the best I could do is give them like a 5, and I feel really bad about that. And then breathability, they were not exceptional, but they were okay. So I'm going to give them about a 6. The next one of our budget brands was Gildan, and the Gildan boxers were actually okay. These are what they call their cotton spandex, and I didn't really mind these too much. The stretch was pretty good, the material was solid, and I think they also make other like athletic materials, or so if you were into their brand, you're probably going to already be familiar with this. And if you do like their other athletic outwear or apparel, then like, yeah, go for it. You're probably going to enjoy these just fine. The only thing I'll say is the waistband was a little bit tight, but outside of that, the feel was actually pretty good on these. I'm going to say they had an overall good feel, really nice stretch, and they were actually snug in a good way, you know, if that makes sense. Not too tight around your thighs, but you know, just enough grip that they didn't ride up or anything. So I really enjoyed that when I was wearing them. As for the overall look, these get a solid 7. Materials and feel, these I think I'm gonna give an 8. Function and movement I thought were very good. That's also a solid 8. And breathability, this was like a 7. I think they could have been a little bit better, but I wasn't gonna build up too much sweat or anything just sitting around wearing these for computer work. All right, next up in our budget brands is one I think lots of people know as Hanes. And I have to admit, I have some Hanes t-shirts and other things, so it wasn't really surprising to kind of have them in the rotation and try them out. I will say, overall, they were actually pretty good. A little bit surprising, honestly, for the budget that these come in at. My notes say these were actually $17 for a 3-pack, so it's actually pretty solid. They're talking about a little over, what, $4 a pair, so that's actually not too bad. Actually $5 a pair, so that's actually pretty good. I don't mind that, and that includes like shipping and everything else. I would say though, these had a little bit of ride up to them, and that was a little disappointing, you know, because we just came off wearing like the others that were actually a little bit better controlled, I guess, in that regard. So it is a little bit unfortunate that these had that ride up, because otherwise I thought they were very solid pairs. So again, if this is what's available wherever you're shopping, I don't think you're going to go wrong really picking up Hanes. And I feel weird saying that I'm doing this review of all these brands, and here I am telling you like about Hanes being like, no, they're kind of solid, but no, they actually were pretty solid for the price. Now for looks, I'm gonna be honest, they're Hanes, so it's pretty average, you know, so we're gonna say about a 6. Nothing really gonna blow your doors off. I thought the materials and the fills were very good, so we're gonna give that a 7. As far as function and movement, like I said, they had a little ride up, so I gotta dock them for that, so we're gonna go with 6. But breathability, surprising because of material, I thought they were a little better than I anticipated they were going to be. So they could also be just a head thing where I thought they were going to be worse. But I'm going to give them a 7 in this category. All right, this is the first one I felt like wasn't, I mean, it's another athletic brand, but I really didn't associate New Balance with boxers. I mean, I know they make shoes that are very popular, and I guess they make some other athletic wear, so I guess it doesn't really surprise me that this was a thing. But hey, it was another popular one that people suggested. And these are what they call their 6-inch boxer brief fly with pouch. So this is the first one we tried that actually had a pouch for your goods. I got to figure out a way to talk about this. without being like too weird about it. But anyway, if y'all want to see a separate video about a bunch of brands with pouches, let me know, because that's a whole different category I hadn't really considered until I started this. But overall, they actually were pretty solid. They were really snug, which was nice in a good way. They had a nice fit overall, nice stretch on the leg. And honestly, I have to say, they sort of felt like running shorts in a way. So any of you that are used to like biking, hiking, something like that, like they had that feel to them, which I actually thought wasn't bad. The downside though is that they had what I call butt lines, and you're going to see this kind of recurring theme in some of the cuts of boxers. For some reason, it's a popular style to have those, and that was a little bit weird because the first pair I had with that, and they felt a little bit off. So if that's your thing, cool. But I even asked a significant other about, like, you know, how does it look or whatever, and it doesn't really seem to do anything for your backside, so I'm not really sure why that's the cut and design. But hey, it is what it is. I gotta just let you know what I saw and report the results. So in looks, unfortunately, the butt lines were a little bit distracting, and I don't know, is there a better word for those? I'm just gonna go out for this video, we're referring to these as butt lines. I don't know. But anyway, the butt stitching, there you go, we'll go with that, butt stitching. It was fine, it was just a little bit distracting, so I'm gonna give those like a 6, because otherwise they actually looked fine. The feel and materials were actually very good. I'm going to give those a solid. I haven't given anything a half point yet, so let's just give these a 9. And then for movement and function, I think I'm also going to give these a 9 because I thought that was pretty good. Actually, I'm going to go 8 because they could have been slightly better. I think they felt the same as the running shorts, but didn't necessarily move the same as those. So let's change that. And then breathability, I think we're going to give those a solid 8 as well. Like, so overall, these were very good. And again, the low score on the butt stitching, that's a personal thing. If you wear other boxers that have that, these are totally okay. So pair of Thieves. This was another one that, because of the name, I thought they were going to be like a designer brand or something, but turns out no, they're actually just a budget brand. You can pick these up in a pack of 4 for about $20, so actually not too bad there. My problem with them though is even around just the stitching itself, it felt like there was a little bit of bunching, and I don't know if maybe I got a bad pair or a bad batch. So I would probably have to reorder to verify that, but I'm just judging on what I got. And they didn't seem like the best, I don't know, craftsmanship in material. So that was a little bit of a downside there. And it was a little bit disappointing because a couple of people who were into these seemed to be really into them. So I was kind of hoping they were going to be a bit better. And I have to say, this was the second pair I wore that had the butt stitching. And it was fine. Like the butt lines were okay. They wasn't a huge deal one way or the other. I could deal with it, but it's not when they were there. And in some pairs, it feels like they were a little more pronounced than others, and that's where I think it's a little bit weird. Wherever they're just like more seamless, I don't think it's as big of a deal. But I will say for these that the actual feel of them was really nice. So I can understand why people that are into these really like them, because they were smooth. They were almost silky. They felt very nice. For a budget brand, I was really surprised. Probably one of the best feeling of the budget category. Honestly, they were very good. So it was a little disappointing that they had like the bunching, and then when wearing them, they weren't the most snugs. There was a little bit of movement, so that was a little unfortunate. But overall, not bad. Now in the looks category, again, because they have the butt lines, it's not my thing. I'm gonna go ahead and give them a 6 there. Feel and materials though, I'm giving these a solid 9. Like these were very good as far as the feel. Now function and movement, I'm probably gonna bring a score down a little bit and give it a 7. Breathability, this one, if I remember right, I didn't get to have like the real extra like exercise portion I wanted with these, but for what I did, they weren't bad. So I'm still gonna let them come in at a 7 here. And the last entry into our budget brands is Puma. And these were actually pretty nice. I think I paid $17 or $18 for these, and they were a 3-pack. So it's actually another pretty good, well-priced pair of boxer briefs. So really good there. This was also another brand from, or another boxer from a brand that actually produces a bunch of athletic gear. Because you've probably heard of Puma and you're probably thinking about shoes, because that's what I was. But they actually were pretty good. I think they gave that feel of athletic wear. The materials were very reminiscent of that. No real surprise there. The band was a little bit thick, it felt like, and obviously their branding was very wide, but that's kind of just what they do on their stuff, so you kind of know to expect it. But it didn't necessarily fit too uncomfortably. I thought that tight of a band, that thickness was going to cut in a little bit, but it actually wasn't that bad. overall it was pretty solid. I will say this one did not have a fly, so if you are a fly user, this is going to be one of those ones that isn't going to work for you. But otherwise, it really wasn't too bad. It's 50-50, right? If you like the large branding and you're okay with it, I think it's fine. If you're not, it's going to be a bit of a detraction. As far as the look of the rest of the brief, it was fine. I didn't really have anything to complain about there. So looks, I'm just going to give it a 7. I didn't think it was remarkable one way or the other. As far as the feel, I thought the feel and materials was actually pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and give that an 8. I feel like 8's a little bit generous. I'm going to say 7 because it felt good, but it didn't feel as good as some of the others that we'd worn. We'll say as far as the function and maneuverability of it, that was actually pretty good. You could almost tell by the feel that they were designed by athletic wear people, so it fit pretty well and had a little bit nice movement, which wasn't too bad. So I'm gonna give them an 8 there. And then for breathability, these actually were pretty good in that department, but again, made from athletic wear, so not really much of a surprise. So I'm gonna go ahead and give them another solid 8 here. Honestly, it teeters between an 8.5 and a 9, but I'm teetering more toward an 8 because I think there were others I could be more impressed or surprised by. But yeah, these overall were actually a pretty good brief. All right, so kicking off our premium brands, we are going to have Calvin Klein's, I believe, microfiber boxer. And these were actually literally just okay. It's kind of disappointing to kind of step up to the next category, and the first thing we have is like something we're not that happy with. As far as the good, I'll say it actually had a good fit as far as being snug around the leg. So it actually moved with you pretty well, and it didn't ride up or anything, and that was actually pretty nice. But after that, things weren't so good. It was a bit too snug everywhere else. There wasn't a lot of room for your stuff. It just really wasn't doing it for. And honestly, they had this weird tag in the back that for some reason, this was one of a couple of brands that had just like a weird tag design that it was a very distracting and hideous tag. I'm not really sure why this is the choice of why they need to do this, but it's not cool. Not something that's comfortable. I would recommend if you do decide to buy these boxers, just go ahead and just rip the tag out, because I'm not sure why anybody would want that hanging out back there. I'll just have to say, this was a pair that just felt small for a medium compared to the other brands. And this could also be maybe just, this contributes to the over snug fit possibly. I don't know if it's just the cut of it, but something about it just definitely felt smaller than all the other ones. And maybe it's just having wore the others, I had something better to compare it to, but either way, definitely can't give it high marks for that. Now, as far as for the look, they were fine, nothing great. I'd give it like a 7-ish. I mean, they weren't a bad looking boxer. Feel and materials, again, I think I can give you, I could give you like a 7. Like I said, again, it's not blowing my doors off, it's not upsetting me. It was actually a comfortable boxer to wear. But then when it comes to actual function and movement, that's a little bit of a tough one, because I can't give you higher than a 6 just because of just too snug. Just doesn't really work out there. Realistically, you know what? I'm gonna have to give this down to a 5. I got a nitpick because there's so many things that are similar. So many of them are gonna get similar scores. We're gonna go ahead and give this a 5 in the function category. Breathability, this was actually okay. I'm not sure it's something I would work out in, but it wasn't terrible. So I'd give it like a 6. I mean, it's just unfortunate when you hear a name like Calvin Klein, you kind of think you're going to be getting something more, but this was probably one of my least favorite, maybe one of 2 that were not my real favorites in this particular category. Now, this is one of the ones I was really looking forward to wearing in the Duluth Trading Company's buck naked brand boxer, and I think they call it their performance boxer shorts. But these were actually really good if you want a mesh short. And I will say, these are the first ones that there were some others. I think like the 32 degree cool and some of the others were a mesh material. These were obviously mesh. Like even from a distance you could tell. But I don't think it's necessarily bad. And I think I'm gonna have to judge them a little bit differently because of the mesh material versus being a synthetic or cotton or whatever else that some of these others are. It actually would probably be good. It feels like they designed these for a particular function. These are very much the workman boxer, right? If you're going to be outside doing construction work, maybe you have an outdoor job of some kind, these are probably going to be a solid boxer for you. I don't know if it's something that if you have an indoor job, maybe you're going to be 9 to 5 at the office, that this is the brand you're actually going to pick. It does have some back lines there on the butt lines, the butt stitching, as we talked about, that I'm not a big fan of, but I will say these were actually wider and more shapely. I don't know if that's a thing we really use for guys clothing, but it actually fit a little better and made a little more sense in these than some of the other brands that had it, so I wasn't upset about that. But like I said, it was very much a workman level boxer, it felt like, when I got done with it. So I mean, the fit was nice. They were a little bit looser than I probably would have wanted around the leg and stuff, but again, they're designed, I think, for a little extra movement, a little airiness. So it was kind of a tough one to judge, because I think for what they're trying to do, they actually check that box very well. For being an everyday wear boxer, I'm not necessarily sure that's the one. Yeah, these were $17 plus $7 shipping if you just wanted one pair, but again, you have to put the shipping over multiple pair. I don't hate that, and I think you get a pretty good value for the price. The downside is for the look. These are not flashy, these are not impressive. I'm just gonna give them a 6. They're not gross or anything, but you have to understand they are just a mesh boxer, almost like a workout boxer of sorts. So if you need something for that, it'd probably be just fine, and I don't think it'd really matter. If you want something to show off, these are probably not the ones you're gonna wear. As far as the feel of the materials, I actually didn't think it was bad for a mesh boxer. I thought they were fine. I'm gonna give them a 7 here. I thought they were okay. But again, they're not gonna be that like very comforting, smooth feel you're gonna get from some others in this category, but it wasn't bad. For what it's trying to do, it's totally okay. For function and movement, I think I'm gonna give them a solid 8. I think it checked the boxes. Again, they didn't have like that snug feel that they moved with you or whatever, but I think, again, if they're just something you want that's not going to be restrictive or anything else, it does do that fine. So I'm taking that into consideration in the score. And then for breathability, give them like a 10. I mean, like, seriously, I mean, it's going to be hard to be more breathable and airy than these just being a straight up, almost wholly perforated. There you go. Might be better mesh boxer. So it actually was really good in that regard. So probably one of the high, I mean, well, 10 is the highest score, but I mean, as far as compared to other boxers, definitely rates up in the breathability aspect. And I think that's what they're selling it to. This is one that's very much a function more than a form in a boxer. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. All right, next up we have Into the AM, and they come in at around $20 for their boxer brief. And these are what they call their everyday boxer brief. And these were actually okay. I didn't have a problem with these at all. And full transparency, I have done some work with Into the AM before, but I did actually order some myself on my own dollar. So this isn't a sponsored thing or anything. I just want to make that clear in case people have seen some of my other content. But this boxer I actually don't mind. These were some I wore pretty regularly. Honestly, they're in my normal rotation for boxers. The material I think is a really nice feel. Fit your leg, thigh area very nice and move with you. If there is a concern I have with these boxers, it's just that they come off just a little bit larger than some of the other medium boxers, which I know it's a little weird because the others seem to be normal or smaller, but this is the one I think feels like it measures a little bit larger. And that means your waistband sometimes is a little looser than you like. I don't think it's one of those ones that's going to fall off your hips or anything. It's not that loose, but I think it's not, if you like having that snug feel there, this probably isn't the one for you. But otherwise, like I said, the materials are good. And, you know, considering it's a website that's known for t-shirts and designer tees and everything, which I do like their shirts. You probably see me wear them in some of my other videos. But I actually think they actually make a reasonable boxer. I don't have much to complain about this, other than like the sizing issue, but that's more of a, I guess, cut and designer choice. Now, for the overall look on these, I'm going to go ahead and give them a solid 8. I think they come in some pretty nice colors, and I will say that having their logo kind of dark, you know, a dark print on a dark band is actually kind of nice, so it doesn't stand out too much. As far as the feel, I really do like the feel of materials. I'm going to give them a solid 8. On function and movement, I think I have to give them a little bit of a lower score, like I said, because of the sizing issue. But I think if you knew that going in, it wouldn't be as bad. But I have to be fair, kind of doing this across the board for everybody. So I think I'm going to give it like a 7-ish. And then breathability, I'll say this, I don't think these are bad, but they're also not the ones you want to be wearing if you're going to be working out or whatever. I don't think they're designed for breathability. So I can't give them a high breathability score, but we're going to come in somewhere around a 7, I think, on these. A good all-around quality boxer, but not one that's going to like blow your doors off in any particular category. All right, next up is MeUndies, and these are just easily labeled as the boxer brief with fly on their website. You can get them for $25 a pair, $24 a pair, 16 with memberships on their website. The coolest part about them, though, is they did have free shipping, and that's something we didn't get from the other brands, so that's something to note. I will say these were the ones that surprised me the most, because we had some interesting hype from people about these on that Twitter thread I mentioned in the beginning. So I kind of had like, okay, these are going to get hyped and I'm not going to like them. But turns out I actually liked them a lot. I guess they, on their website, they claim that these are a birch. Let me go check the website real quick, because they actually claim these are beechwood fibers spun into a yarn. So that alone had me going like, okay, well, I don't know how breathable these would be. But honestly, not only were they breathable, they actually were very soft. I was really surprised. They fit well. If I had any complaint about them, is that they were just like the slightest hair more snug, but that was about it. Like there really was, and I was trying to be nitpicky on a lot of these brands, because when you're comparing boxers, a lot of the stuff is going to be so similar or so close. So I was trying to find things so I had something to knock them for, but these are actually a really nice boxer brief. And the fly was very usable in them too, so that was actually very good. The one thing I will say that makes them stand out on their website is that you actually can get a bunch of different styles, colors, like just something that the other brands don't offer. Because I think most of them came in like single color, or they had like, you know, 2 or 3 patterns maybe. Their website, I don't know, it feels like there's like 50 different things, styles and looks you could buy. So that's definitely a leg up they have over everybody else. But you know, for having sustainable material, it actually was really nice. Was, like I said, nice and snug, and actually didn't ride up at all. So these are ones that really surprised me. I gave it really high marks because I was kind of blown away. I think it's one of those cases where like things get hyped and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go with the hype and see, and it's not gonna be that good. But no, these actually did live up to the hype, so I was pretty happy with that. So yeah, as far as looks, I think somebody has to score 10, so they're gonna get it here just because they offer way more than everybody else. And actually the boxers themselves are the ones I got, even without having the patterns, were actually nice, clean, and simple looking, and actually fit nice and kind of kept everything well displayed, if you know what I'm saying. So no complaints there. Feel and materials, I'm giving them also a solid 9. I think so 10 for looks, 9 on feel and materials, because I was just really impressed with this whole like special sustainable stuff that actually was much better than I thought it was going to be. Function and movement, if I were going to give anything lower, this is probably where they score the lowest, but as like I said, they were a slight bit snug, but overall I can't give them less than an 8 there. And breathability, this is the part that really surprised me, because we've seen the mesh pairs and everything else at this point. And putting these on, I have to say, I was really surprised. I don't know how they would hold up to, like, say, a rigorous workout, because I didn't really go through that with them, but that might be the only thing that keeps them from, you know, getting a higher score in this category. Me being a sit-down content creator, whatever, these were solid. Between the comfort that they provide and everything else, I was good with these. Now, next up in the premium category is a brand called Pact. These are what they called their extended boxer brief, but these were $19 with shipping, so they were about $14 and I think $5 shipping. So again, 14 bucks, but I'm just including full price because that's what I paid for them. This was another brand though that actually claims to have organic materials. So, you know, in this case, it's organic cotton, and they say they use 91% less water than other traditional materials. So I don't know how to measure that. I'm just putting that out there because if that matters to you, it could be important in this type of brand. And I will say, this was another one that was pretty good. Like, this is the type of thing when having this and the MeUndies back to back kind of has me rethinking how I feel about like sustainable materials and whatever in regard to underwear, because both of these felt very good. Like, this is another really just smooth, supple feeling. Like, I don't think I'd ever say the word supple describing something, but there you go. A supple feel. That's really what it was. It was really nice, cush. Like, not what you would expect from a thing that's saying, oh, this is organic cotton or whatever, but actually really good. So, like, thumbs up to Pact. This is kind of like between them and MeUndies, you're really changing my view on what boxer briefs should feel like or could feel like if we kind of change our material use. So that was awesome. Overall, actually felt very good, very snug on the leg, no real movement, didn't ride up. I actually liked a lot about these, honestly. I was really impressed. And this is a brand I knew nothing about before people recommended them, so that was also really nice. So thank you for those of you that actually recommended these. I will say though, it did have the butt stitching, and you know, we're talking about this again, you know, the butt lines, but this felt like the way to do it because they were not very pronounced. Like, they were there and I could see them, but when wearing them, I didn't really feel them. So I will say, as far as looks, they were just okay. They didn't really have anything like special, didn't offer anything too much. So I'm gonna give them just like a 6. They were okay. feel and materials though, this is another one I think I'm going to go like a solid 10. I think these felt really good. I feel like if you were using or wearing some of the budget brands and you came to like either the MeUndies or the Pact brands, I think you're going to honestly see and feel the difference there whenever you wear them. So I'm going to give these a 10 on feel and materials. Function and movement, I think I'm going to give them a solid 8. I didn't really have a problem with anything there they were doing. They weren't exceptional, like you know, the absolute S tier, but they were really good. No complaints there. Breathability, I think I'm going to give these also something about an 8. I thought they were pretty good there. I'm not sure, again, these would be like workout underwear, but I didn't really have a problem with them wearing them around the office and everything else. So if the look doesn't bother you, like that's literally the only thing that I'm giving a lower score to here. All right, next up we have Polo by Ralph Lauren, $40 for a 3-pack. Not a bad price, honestly. I thought they were going to be more when I saw the name because I think I associate Polo with just being like ultra premium on every other type of clothing. So I was a little bit surprised if these were as cheap as they were, and that was good. But I'm going to be real with y'all, that's like where the good stopped on these. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to hide it. I'm going to read my notes that I had from these from the day I wore them. Because I had these on around this day 7 on this. So check this out, like not as soft as the other brands. I don't know, like what you would expect, maybe like a tank top or something to feel like, you know, like a workout tank top. It just wasn't the best. The fly was secure, but it really wasn't functional if you were of size. That's the only way I have in my notes, because it was just too much fiddling to try to like move stuff around to get it out. Like it was not pleasant. And then they just didn't move as well as the others. That was also another problem I had with these. Like, it just felt like they just, whenever you're shifting, they just didn't move with your body as cleanly, right? And there's the only way I can describe it. Like, there was a little bit of bunch up. It just like it wasn't, well, a lot of the other pairs seem like they flexed and moved with you a little cleaner. I think because of the materials they use, it doesn't necessarily do that with these. Honestly, my bottom note on this, truthfully, I mean, I had like some other things, but I don't want to drag it out and just like make this a bass session. But truthfully, if you wear these brands, try one of these others that I've given decent scores to. You're going to be so much happier. Like, yeah, I get it. There might be some brand loyalty because that's the only reason I can think of somebody would want to wear these. And I know I'm blowing up the opportunity to ever have a sponsorship from Polo, but I mean, let's be honest, like if you try these, like, I don't even know, like, I feel like you have to not love yourself, and maybe that's your kink or something, I don't know, and you don't want it to be too pleasant down there, but like, giggity. Just because of the material, I'm giving them like a 4. From the feel of them, I can't, like, I mean, 4, I mean, like, I feel bad, like, this is the worst I'm giving anybody, I think. Function and movement was like a 3. They just, I mean, and the problem is I'm comparing these to all these other brands I've already worn and everything else, and they're just not in the same category. Breathability, that was fine, like a 5, but that's the best I can give it. So overall, these are probably going to end up being the worst performing ones and worst score of all the brands that we're going to cover today. This next one is another brand I didn't know existed till this started. So Saxx had $45 for a 2-pack. So a little more on the pricey side compared to some of the others we had, but they actually weren't bad. And these I actually kind of enjoyed. They look nice. The feel was very good. They were another one that had the pouch. And that's unfortunately, I think, where my score detracts here is the pouch was not very big. And I think because of the cut and the design for the pouch, it also in some ways made the fly a little less usable. So that was a little bit disappointing as well in these. So I almost feel like if they didn't go the extra effort for the pouch, these would have probably been a higher scoring boxer for me. But again, I think just maybe if you're not of size, maybe it's okay. But like the pouch just wasn't cutting it. And like I said, it just led to a weird cut. But otherwise, I like the material. I like the feel. The movement was nice. Like, there was a lot of things there to really like about these. So if you are a fan of this brand, don't be upset. Like, these are not bad boxers. This is just a matter of like the feature they had for functionality that actually just didn't deliver for me personally. But if they work for you, keep sticking with them. These are not a bad boxer. I'm giving these a solid 8. I have no problem with these at all. For feel and materials, I think see, this is why I'm trying to avoid half scores, because this is like between an 8 and a 9. I'm gonna give them a 9. I thought they felt really good, honestly. Function and movement, this is where I have to score them lower, and I'm gonna give them a 6. And I feel really bad because if it wasn't for the pouch and the cut there, I think around the pouch, these would probably score even higher. Breathability was pretty good. We're gonna give these probably around a 7, or let's give it an 8. I'm gonna give them a slight up here on an 8 because I'm banging them a little bit for the functionality. But overall, another really good boxer in the premium category. All right, and our last entry into our, what we're calling our premium category. I almost forgot here. This has been a long video, sorry. But these are the Uniqlo Airism boxer briefs. These come in at $14. And I actually thought these were mostly okay. They were very airy, breezy. They were nice and snug. I like that about them. I actually didn't have a huge problem with these. However, the fly was definitely just too tight and unfunctional, or non-functional. I don't know what the best word for that is. Either way, didn't function very well. They also felt like the shortest of the different brands by a little bit. So if length is a big deal, these probably felt like they were closer to a 5-inch inseam than a 6-inch. So that plays a little bit of a part too. I was trying to keep them all the same and go a little bit longer because I think more people seem to prefer that. I think when people tend to go shorter, they're just looking to wear a trunk more than a boxer. So that's something to figure in there as well. But I did actually like the snug feel that they provided overall, and that kind of limited movement and everything else in a good way, not a bad way. You know, so I didn't have that really to complain about on these. As far as the overall look, I thought the look was probably like a 7. You know, they were nice, but nothing to really write home about, weren't terrible. The feel and materials I thought were also very good. I thought those were a 7. Function and movement, more of the function problem than the movement. I think we're going to come in at like a 6 here. And then on breathability, they actually were very good. I'm going to score them a solid 9 here, believe it or not. Like, they actually were very good in that department. These are some that I could see myself wearing if I were going to go jogging or something else, because they were snug in the right ways to keep your business from moving around, but then also would be very airy and probably keep you from building up sweat, which is very nice. All right, and then our last 5 here we have are all of our, what we're going to call designer brands. These are all pair that are over $25 a piece. So our first entry into this category is from Bombas. They make a cotton blend boxer brief, they call it. And these are actually, like, this was interesting to me because I do like Bombas socks. I do think they are probably some of the best socks on the market. They have one of the best return policies and everything else, warranties. So I'm like, cool, let's see if their boxers stand up to everything else, just like their socks do. And honestly, they didn't disappoint. I was very happy with these. Here's the thing, the material was very nice and a good feel. I mean, when you're paying $32, I think it was, yeah, $32 for a pair, you're expecting something a little bit nicer. And the material was very nice, felt really good. They were nice and perfectly snug around the leg. They didn't move too much. They held everything in the right spot. Honestly, the movement felt very smooth in these, so I could wear these all day without really having a problem. I actually really liked them. These felt like if you had to go to a long business meeting, maybe a gala type thing or whatever, and you wanted to wear something nice underneath, you wouldn't be too upset at the end of the night having these hold you. Though I will say they had one weird design flaw in them. I don't know why, but they're the only brand that had this. But if you look, the boxer has a weird slanty opening on the fly. I don't know why that's a thing. It didn't make it any more functional. Matter of fact, it made it harder to use. I'm not even sure, even if you're smaller or larger, how you use this functionally. Maybe I was too dumb to figure it out, but it didn't feel convenient. So being a non-boxer or fly user, this is probably okay for me in the long run. But for the test, just to be fair, if you are a fly user, these aren't going to be the ones for you. As far as the overall look, I'm going to score these like a 9. And the only reason I'm giving 9 is because these are something you look at and you're kind of like, they're nice and simple and sleek, but like you can tell they're expensive. So like that's got to count for something. So I'm giving them a 9 there. On materials and feel, I'm also giving them a 9. On function though, I can't score them really. I mean that fly is just, I can't. For function, I can only give them like a 7 because the movement was great, but that fly is just killing me. Breathability, these are ones I also can probably only give like a 7 to, because I don't think these would necessarily be great workout boxers. These are definitely like comfort, wear to work, work day, all day, office job type boxers. If that's you, these are probably going to be great for you. Next up in this category is one they call Officio. They have a give and go boxer brief. I don't know why you would even call them that. Like, that just sounds like, that makes me sound like just all like give and go. Like, who, anyway. But I actually heard the name and they didn't sound like they were going to be a designer brand, but they come in at $26. Though, if you look around, you can find them on Amazon sometimes for like $20. So I didn't know how to categorize them, but hey, normally if you just buy them on their website, they're $26. That's why they made this category. Overall, though, they actually were pretty reasonably nice, I would say, as far as like the feeling. They were pretty snug. I didn't really have a problem with all that. I would say, though, they had a weirdly wide fly, which made them, it's a little hard to use because, like, you know what I'm saying. If you have a man part, you know, but like it just wasn't functional, unfortunately, or not as easy to use. It was definitely functional, but not a smooth functioning process. This was also another brand that had like some weird lines in the cut, which I didn't really understand that as a design choice. But I actually did like the stretch of it and the breathability and a lot of other things. So just as far as day-to-day wear, it was pretty good. If I needed something that was more function than form, excluding the fly, I actually would say this is actually pretty good. But if it's what's available to you in that price, I don't think you'll be terribly disappointed with it for what you're spending. This was probably the hardest boxer brief for me to score through this whole process because I don't know if like when I hear the name, it doesn't come off as designer or even premium. So that's a little weird, and I think I'm having like fight that in some of my reviews. But as far as just the look of the boxer, they're actually mostly okay. I would say they're probably like as a 7, right? They're not bad, they're not hideous. The name doesn't look too gaudy or anything on the waistband. It's just kind of okay. And then feel and materials I actually thought were pretty solid. I don't really have a complaint about that. I'd give them an 8 in that category. Function and movement, I'm kind of a little put off by the fly, but everything else I thought was pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and give them like a 7. And then breathability actually seemed pretty solid. So I'm going to give them a 7 there as well. Okay, now another one we have in this category is Mack Weldon. This is one I'd seen advertised on several different podcasts and different web shows and stuff that I'd watched and listened to. So I was kind of looking forward to these as well. It's got a good excuse to finally buy a brand. Let's see, my notes say these were $37 a pair, and that's price with shipping. So they were probably around $32 or so. Not a bad price, I think, when you're talking about a designer pair. And honestly, I have to say they felt really good. These were actually some really nice ones. These were another one that like you're buying designer and it felt designer, right? So that's actually very good. They moved very well. I thought they were snug around the legs a little bit, just to the right amount. The only weird thing from a presentation standpoint is they did have like some odd print on the outside for some reason. You know, like when you look at the boxers, you normally have your printing on the inside. For whatever reason, this was on like the thigh area and in the back. So it seems kind of silly, but when we're nitpicking for like designer brands or not, like it did tear down the aesthetic a little bit of, you know, your parts being well presented, I guess. That's the way I can put it. This was also another brand that didn't have a fly. I don't think it matters to 80% of the people, apparently, according to research, but if you do, this is one that's not going to work for you. But generally, overall, this was a really nice one, I have to admit. For the price, it feels a little high, but it felt really good. Like, this was a nice boxer brief to have on. This is one that, like, if I did have these in my collection, I would not be upset about wearing these at any point. Now, again, as far as the look, we're going to be nitpicking a bit because I do actually think this is a nice looking boxer. I really do. But the weird choice of having the labels and stuff on the outside, I don't know. Like, I feel like I shouldn't be as harsh or whatever. I want to give this like a 9. This might be my one where I give a half score. I'm giving it an 8.5. I want to give it a little bit more. I just don't know if I can because it bugs me. It bugs me. I know it's nitpicky. It sucks. If you're a big fan, hey, don't hold it against them. It's actually still a good boxer. It's just a little thing that bugs me. Feel and materials, I'm going to give these I'm giving these a 10. I'm putting these up there. I think the material and the feel was very nice on these. Function and movement, I'm also giving a solid 9 to. I didn't have anything really to complain about in that department. Breathability, this is the one I'm going to give it like a 7. I felt like had I worked out a little more rigorous in these, I would have probably built up some extra sweat and things in there, and I don't know how long it would have taken to evaporate. I didn't really get to put it through the paces. But as far as just like, again, if you're just wearing these for a day job, you're doing content creation, whatever, these are probably going to be a fine boxer to wear. You're not going to have a problem in that department. All right, next up, we had one from Savage Fenty. This one got recommended by a few folks, and I think I'd heard the brand name before, but I wasn't even aware they made boxers. So check these out, and I wasn't that impressed with them. I was a little disappointed. My notes say these were $26. They apparently can be cheaper if you sign up for their membership, but I actually want to, okay, this is one of the few times I'm also going to say one of the downsides of this brand too is I couldn't order without also signing up on their website and everything else, like whereas some of the other sites I could just order and sign through as a guest and pay for it. I couldn't do that on the site, so that was very disappointing because I didn't necessarily want to sign up for another thing, so that's already kind of marked against them. They were also the slowest to ship. As a matter of fact, I was almost done with the wearing process of all the different brands, and then this one showed up at like the day before I was going to be finished. I almost forgot I even ordered them. That's not really what you're looking for when you're paying for a higher end brand, so a little disappointing. It is on the cheaper end though of the designer brands. Let's be clear about that. Now, as far as I will say, it had very good support, and I did like that. Also had pretty good feel, so no real complaints there either. And I would say if I were just going to wear these throughout the day, I don't think I would be terribly upset about that. Like, they actually were good. They weren't too snug. I felt like I could be pretty mobile in them. Even if I was out like playing basketball, I think the movement would be pretty solid in these. I will say though, they were another one of those brands that had a weirdly long tag, though I believe their tag said it's like made to be removed or something, so remove it. But again, it's a thing that's there, so I got to talk about it. I'll also say their band was probably the thickest of all of the boxer briefs I tried. I'm pretty sure it was the thickest brand. They also put their name on the band very large and flashy and like these shiny prints, and it's a little bit rough to the touch. I know it's kind of weird. I don't know what it's made from, but it was a little bit distracting whenever you kind of go grab your band or pull up your briefs, and it's just like, it wasn't like awful, but it's one of those things that when I'm comparing them to all the other brands, I kind of have to say, okay, well, this is a thing I have to note. It's probably fine for you, but I do feel like for me, it did pull down from the overall look. If that was just a regular font or was something blended into the band a little bit more, I think I would have been more cool with it. Now, as far as the overall look, like I said, I'm going to give them some knocks for the band and the material it's from or whatever. I don't know, it just felt strange. So I'm going to give them like a 7 there, because otherwise the actual like cut and stuff I thought were pretty good on them. The feel and materials I think is a very solid 8, no real problems there. Movement and function, I think I'm also going to give them an 8. I thought that was good. Breathability, I don't really know that these are a good workout brief necessarily, but I did feel like they did have some amount of breathability to them, which I wasn't really expecting, so I'm going to go ahead and give them a 7 here as well. So overall, not a bad brief. If you like this brand or whatever and you want a designer brand at a pretty solid price, this is, like I said, the low end of the designer price, and they actually were pretty good. All right, and our last entry in all this is the Tommy John Second Skin Brief. However, I want to note that I did accidentally order the 8-inch inseam one. So these were a little more like biker shorts more than boxer briefs, but I want to just still include it because I already had them, I ordered them, I wore them. But I want people to know just kind of what we're doing, kind of keep everything fair here. Now, this was another brand that I'd seen advertised quite a lot on various podcasts and whatnot. So I was aware of them, but I hadn't actually worn them at any point, and I didn't know particularly anybody that worn them, so this was actually kind of a cool one that I was interested to try. I have to admit, the overall feel was pretty nice. They didn't ride up at all. Now, maybe there was less ride up because they were longer, and you know, they're almost designed for a different purpose, so it's kind of hard to gauge that overall, but you know, based on what I had, thought that was pretty good. And honestly, like, the movement was solid in these. The weird thing though is, and I'm gonna try to make sure this shows through in the pictures, but they had a weird upper gate to the fly, and I don't know like why that's a thing. Like, I tried to functionally use it, but coming up and out and over doesn't really work. So I don't know if somebody from Tommy John is actually like seeing this. Could you shoot me a message, because I almost want to wear them again and use the fly purposefully how the design is to be used, because I feel like I'm an idiot and I didn't use it properly. But that being said, that's probably one of the flaws with the cut. But overall, a very good boxer for the price, but I will say it is also the most expensive, I think, in our designer brand at $43 a pair. So it's actually significantly more than a lot of the others that we reviewed today. I will say overall for the look, I actually like these. I think the branding's really nice. The color contrast is cool. So as far as boxers go, I'm willing to give these a solid 9 for looks. I think if you're looking for something to display your goods, I think this is actually a really nice boxer to have. So no problems there. Material I thought was also very good. I'm going to give those probably an 8. I'm stuck between an 8 and a 9 on these. I actually kind of like them, but I don't think they necessarily were as good as some of the the other alternate materials and things we had in the other category. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick with an 8 on this. Function and movement I think the movement was very good. I think the function, unfortunately, because of the fly, I couldn't. If it wasn't for the fly, I think I seriously would have probably given these a 9 or a 10 in this category, but because of the fly, I think I'm only gonna give them a 9, and I feel really bad about that. Breathability, I think this falls into the category a lot of the others where, you know, if you're wearing them for the workday or whatever, cool. I don't think things are necessarily workout ones, but I did think the breathability was still pretty good for what they were. So I'm gonna go ahead and settle in and give these something like a 8. I think I would be fine with that. I don't think I would build up a lot of sweat, but I think there would probably be a little bit if I was using these as a workout boxer. So after all that, let's recap what we've got, because this was a long video and we had a lot of things to talk about. So let's look at each individual category by score and then kind of figure out what we have that's the best here. Now in the budget category, we actually did pretty well, all things considered. I thought these were going to score a lot worse and they actually didn't. I would say New Balance, Gildan, and Puma all actually turned out pretty good boxer briefs. And it's interesting because all 3 of these seem to be companies that make athletic wear as well. So I'm not sure if that's a coincidence or what, but they definitely checked all the right boxes. And honestly, a pair of these in 32 degrees, I would say, are also very good. I don't think that's a problem, especially for your budget. I think this could be a very good selection if they're near you or you're available to pick these up on your next shopping trip. For Loom and Hanes, they're passable, they're not bad, but they're just there. Not much else to say about them. The premium category showed out to probably have the best overall value for your dollar, having some very high performers for a pretty reasonable cost, falling right in the middle, obviously, of our 3 categories. MeUndies actually came in as the big winner at 35 points, but honestly, I'd also say the Pact brand are very good as well. I felt like I was splitting hairs a little bit on those. So if you're looking at trying them out, go for it. I think you're going to be happy with both of those, and they both use sustainable products, which I think is something worth pointing out. The Duluth Trading Company, though, actually had really good ones with their Buck Naked brand, and I have to admit that they actually were pretty impressive. And I would say if you're looking for a workman level boxer, these probably check more of the boxes for that. So if you need something for an outdoorsy job that you do every day, these are probably going to be a very good boxer for you. If you have something that you're going to be indoors more often or more sedentary jobs, I would look into the MeUndies or the Pact brands. Into the AM and Saxx also put up a good fight though, and I actually enjoyed both of those. I'm not going to be upset to have those in the rotation. I think they're actually very good. Once we get below that though, the Uniqlo and the Calvin Klein, less exciting, and to be honest, the Polo were about as disappointing as could be. I don't know, maybe it's because those came behind the MeUndies and the Pact, I don't know, but in general, Polo did not do it for me. In taking a look at our designer brands, I have to say I'm not really disappointed terribly with any of these. I think these are all good and wearable, and I think it makes a lot of sense that all of these have fans out there. Even though I ranked the Mack Weldon, Tommy John, Bombas in that order, I think for me personally, I think I'd be more likely to wear the Bombas most often and probably the Mack Weldon. So even though I scored them a certain way, I think after just wearing them, they felt a certain comfort level for me that I would probably wear more often. But again, these are just individual scores. But yeah, I don't think you're going to really go wrong in this category. This is just one where you're going to be spending the most money. So I would probably be buying the top 3 here and really getting the best value and the best feel for your buck. Mack Weldon was a little pricey coming in on top, but they were actually very good as well. So all of these I think earned their spot there, especially the top 3. But to be honest, I was really surprised. We had some budget ones that really overperformed, and then we had a couple of premium ones that didn't really live up to their branding, so Yeah, just goes to show there are a lot of brands out there, and I didn't even try everything that's on the market. There are tons. So let me know down in the comments how you feel about all this. If you agree with my reviews or not, should I have done and tested them a different way? Are there other brands you want to see if I do another one of these? Or do you want to see me do one just about boxers with pouches? All of that feels relevant. There's so many options in the world of boxer briefs. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know it's been crazy long. It was 20 brands. The best we could do to make sure we covered them all, at least as close to extensively as we could. But anyway, please, thank you for checking out stuff on my new channel. Watch, subscribe, share, tell everybody about it, all that good stuff. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.